You are listening to All Clear, a Firefighter Health and Wellness podcast. This week, leave some tracks with guest Gerald Mishoe of the South Carolina Low Country Firefighter Support Team. I am Travis, your host, along with Eric, our co-host. Good to see you, Eric.
You too.
And we have a special guest with us today. We have Gerald Mishoe with us today. Eric, why don't I let you introduce Gerald and kind of go from there?
I'm excited to have Mr. Gerald with us. Gerald is the executive director of the Low Country Firefighter Support Team in South Carolina, and he is a very dear friend of mine and an integral part of me being able to run the program that we run up here in North Carolina. He has had a remarkable career in the fire department and continues on a daily basis to have a tremendous impact on the first responder community with his program. So thank you, Gerald, for joining us today.
Thank you, man.
If you could, go ahead and tell us a little about your fire department career and how that led you into what you're doing now with the Low Country Firefighter Support Team.
Well, quite frankly, I was one of the kids in the neighborhood who was lucky to be the son of a firefighter. So my dad was in the fire department when I was born. So I followed him into the fire service when I was 17, but spent many years prior to being 17 and riding fire trucks, going to fire for them and doing those sorts of things. Because we lived in a small town, Conway, South Carolina, where we didn't have a whole lot of liability. It's just more like Mayberry back in those days. But it gave me an opportunity to learn about the fire department and know some great people and be raised by some great people as a young man. When I was 17 years old, I joined the fire department at St. Andrews Fire Department here in Charleston. And I had a pretty good career. I worked at St. Andrews for 9 years, and then I transitioned over to North Charleston District, which was another unincorporated area of the county, where I was an assistant chief, and I finished my career as an assistant chief. And went out to retirement and just retired a few years, and unfortunately we had the tragic event of the Charleston 9 tragedy and the Superstore fire, where 9 good men and firefighters were killed. And there was an attempt made, there was a program put into place to provide behavioral health care for the Charleston Fire Department proper. Understanding in Charleston County alone, it's much like any other state. There are 14 different governmental entities, and all of them have their own fire department. So Charleston was the largest at the time and had about 257 or so people. And so we were put into place to start a peer support unit and a counseling unit for the Charleston Fire Department members and their families, which we did in 2007. It wasn't very long before we realized that there was a whole lot of people out there who needed the kind of help we could offer. And unfortunately, no fire departments, not Charleston, not anybody else, not where I came from, but anybody else had any kind of behavioral health program in place. It was all still kind of taboo. It was all kind of get by the best way you can. And my entire working career in the fire service, I never had the option of being able to talk to anyone other than maybe the fire department chaplain. That being said, we opened up our doors and started seeing people from other agencies within Charleston County, and that led us to, in addition to fire departments, we started taking care of EMS, 911 dispatchers, and to some extent, law enforcement. So the program continued to grow. We spread out outside of Charleston, and we started doing 3 counties. As time continued to grow, we began a program. We now serve 27 counties in South Carolina.
Wow.
46 counties, and we serve 27 of them. In the beginning, there was 1 firefighter, me, and 3 mental health clinicians. The 4 of us made up the Charleston Firefighter Support Team. After about a year, we set into place a peer training program and trained 14 people in the Charleston Fire Department to be peer team members. And so our team began to grow some. And as we saw more and more people, we had people coming from all over the state. They were driving from Columbia and Myrtle Beach, Beaufort, and all over the state that come to Charleston because that's where the first responder clinicians were. So we set out to remedy that, and we created a clinicians academy, and we invited all the clinicians we knew in the state that had the kind of credentials we were looking for. People that were trained in EMDR, people that were trained in DBT and CBT and some of the other mindfulness programs. And we went out and recruited clinicians from all around the state. And we now have 33 clinicians on our team. And they're spread all over those 27 counties and some counties outside of our coverage area, where we're able to send a firefighter or a paramedic or a dispatcher or a police officer see a clinician close to home, and they don't have to drive 100 miles to get to see one of ours. All of those people have been trained to serve first responders. They're doing an excellent job. Our team has continued to grow on the peer team side. We now, throughout the 3 organizations, EMS and 911, we have 87 members of our peer team who serve in their particular communities to offer services and support to those people seeking that kind of help. And we, in turn, will make referrals to an appropriate clinician if they need that level of care. And it's been a program that's worked very well, but it's worked very well because of the dedication of a whole lot of people. 87 peers, 33 or so clinicians make up a pretty formidable team. And we have partnered with people like First Responder Peer Support Network, Eric's group in North Carolina. The South Carolina FAST team is a team that was formed in 2012 to take care of first responders in South Carolina. We have another Support One. So there are multiple teams around South Carolina that do what we do. We've been doing it just a little bit longer, and I don't know if that makes a difference one way or the other. But we're fortunate to have a lot of emphasis put on first responder behavioral care now in our state, and we try to set a good example by taking care of those people. One thing we're very proud of is we always have, since the very beginning, since the very first meeting, we've always taken care of our first responders and their family members. So when we take care of a firefighter, we make sure that his family's doing okay, that he has the kind of support at home that he deserves to have, that he is giving the kind of support he deserves to give to his family. And it's been a pretty amazing experience. We have partnerships with all sorts of treatment facilities, Chatterproof in Florida. We have the AFF Center for Excellence. There's a bunch of different programs around, and there's a bunch of different private treatment facilities around that we can send people to. So we're very proud of that. We've been working hard. It's hard to believe that 16 years have gone by. It's hard to believe that we've put 35 years in the fire service and never had an opportunity to ever get any help. And so we've been running hard to try to catch up, and very excited about new people coming in. Making an effort to get into all recruit training classes to expose our new recruits to this kind of mindset, if you will. And the suck it up culture is still around with some of the old timers, but not as much as it has been. And there are a lot of people getting help from us. But more importantly, there are a lot of people who have gotten help from us who are going back out into the fire stations and on to the medic units and into the 911 centers and giving help to other people and encouraging other people to do what they did. And that's why our program has grown.
That's amazing.
For that purpose.
16 years. And you and I know a lot of the same people, Gerald. And when it comes to the behavioral health and the mental health side of first responders and the peer support programs and things like that, we consider you the OG of this. 16 years, that's a long time. And, I can remember back in my career, 16 years ago, and there was absolutely no way that we were even thinking down these lines of behavioral health issues and people having to reach out for help, and that stigma still being attached to it. So 16 years, what do you think the biggest change in first responder behavioral health has been that you've seen in those 16 years?
Well, obviously accessibility, because 16 years ago we didn't have anything. We created it right out of the box, and quite frankly, we didn't always get it right. We fell on our face a few times, stumped our toes, and realized we needed to back up and redo some things. We learned, particularly in the very early days, that firefighters don't want to go to a mental health center to get help. They want to go somewhere where it's private and where they won't run into people that they either see or know or have responded to a call with. They want privacy. They don't trust clinicians in general, or didn't trust clinicians in general, because they didn't think clinicians understood what a firefighter or a paramedic has to do out in the street. And our folks, not our team, but the people that we help, our firefighters, our paramedics, our 911 dispatchers, have been very good at educating our clinicians. When they see them as a client, if you will, they also educate our clinicians and teach them a whole lot about the first responder world. And that's one of the biggest changes that we've had. Acceptance is still a big problem sometimes, but we have a lot of people. We've had 8 referrals since yesterday morning, which
Wow.
Even in any shape of the imagination is a busy time, busy 24 hours for us. But people are taking advantage of it. They're calling and asking about it. We're very fortunate to have a plan in place in this state that pays a $15,000 benefit for firefighters and paramedics and 911 dispatchers and police officers to get mental health care if they need it. So there's no reason that people can't take advantage of it or shouldn't take advantage of it. Sometimes we work with people for a long time. The longest, I think, the record that I have of anybody is one fellow who I've worked with for 12 years. Saw him regularly, provided peer support to him regularly. And one night he came to an event we had, and he came to me and wanted to talk. We went in a private room and we closed the door. And he just broke down and cried and said, "I just can't do this anymore. I got to have some help." So after 12 years, we were able to lead him to a condition, and he is doing amazing now. And not only that, but once he got himself in a good place and started helping himself, then he realized what he needed to do to help the people around him. So his family life is better. His friendships are better. He's not drinking like he once was. I mean, there's so many good things that can come out of this, and we're very, very happy about it. We also have a children's program, and we're very proud of our children's program.
Hey, Gerald, can I ask you a question real quick? Kind of going back to what you were saying and how, peer support has evolved and gotten to where we are now. Would you say that firefighters in general now are more open to the thought of seeking support for mental health issues or anxiety, stress, whatever the case is, or do you think it's kind of the same stigma that it had years ago?
No. I clearly think the stigma has been softened. We still got guys that won't reach out for help. I had a guy tell me yesterday, "You're not going to send me to a loony bin now, are you?" I said, "No, we're not going to a loony bin. Matter of fact, we don't have any of those. I want to send you to a clinician, and you tell me if this works out for you. If it does, we'll try somebody else." So we give them the opportunity to make the decision, to be a part of that decision-making process. And the real strength of what we do is the people out there, firefighters who once were tangled up in that culture, who once sucked it up and just went on with their lives, who are now changed the flow of the river, so to speak, and they're helping other people get that help. The peer side of a team is very important because it gives a firefighter an opportunity to do something very private, very confidential, by talking to another firefighter who's been trained to help him, without making a big deal about going inpatient somewhere or going to a clinician's office. But I can tell you that there are a lot of great people around here who've worked very hard to get themselves to a better place. We still have those holdouts. That one guy held out on me 12 years. That's probably my personal record. But we didn't give up on it, and we won't ever give up. Nobody fights alone.
That's a big onion to peel back. 12 years, before they finally opened up, and that leads to Travis kind of asked the question. I'm sure when you started this 16 years ago, you were probably not received with open arms with what you were doing, and now, like you were saying, you got people that you might have a contact with or you might talk to that are going back and telling their work partners, or they're telling their friends, hey, go talk. And that's what we want. We want to be able to create that ripple effect. And there's nothing better than that when we see that taking place. You mentioned the importance of first responder clinicians. Somebody that understands what the first responder is doing and why they're actually seeking help. How important is that the first responder, that the clinician understands what the first responder does on a daily basis?
I think it's extremely important. Matter of fact, I think that's the gold star. If we have a gold star in our whole program, is that we have clinicians who know a lot about the fire service. And one of the reasons that I was chosen to kind of lead this operation 16 years ago, and there were lots of people out there that could have done this. I just happened to be the one that got picked. But they were looking for someone with a background in the fire service, because the clinicians were seeing firefighters right after the fire, and they were coming back. The clinicians were coming back and going, I have never heard such things. I didn't know such things happened out there in the street. I didn't know these people were faced with these kind of things. And firefighters notoriously talk in a lot of acronyms and abbreviations. We don't have any idea what they're talking about. And so my job was pretty simple in the beginning. It was my job to educate the clinicians on how the fire service worked, and to tell them what it meant about crawling down a dark hallway, or using SCBA, or having a RIT team stand by. They didn't understand any of those acronyms or things. But once they started learning that, and again, we took them through our academy where we taught them that stuff. We put them in the burn building and breathing apparatus. We put them in the sheriff's shoot room to shoot guns and to understand what it's like to be confronted with a perpetrator with a gun. We put them in the back of ambulances and let them climb aerial ladders. We weren't trying to make firefighters or paramedics out of them. We were trying to expose them to what our people get exposed to. And it as you might imagine, it came off very well and was very well received. And I eventually transitioned from that role into being the team leader for the whole team. And one of the reasons that they were looking for someone like me, now again, there were a bunch of people who could do it, was they were looking for somebody who had some name recognition. And an old guy that's floating around and had been in the fire service 35 years in the same community. Most people knew me, so I was able to, you could send a clinician to a station to visit, and they'd get the cold shoulder. They could ask me to go with them, and I would break down the door, so to speak. I'd get in there and yuck it up with the guys and tell them what we were here for, and introduce them to the clinicians. And over a period of time, the clinicians really learned their lessons well, and they've done a good job. I wouldn't trade anything for the clinicians we have. We have some wonderful, dedicated clinicians. We have some that have stopped seeing general public. They don't see anybody but first responders now. That's all they want to be committed to.
That's amazing.
You know, it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a medical doctor yesterday who's working with the Cancer Alliance a little bit. And Dr. Tom mentioned that, you know, he is very intimidated when it comes to, like, the terms we use in the fire service, how we describe things, because he said just as much as you may be intimidated when you listen to us give a medical lecture, he said we're very much intimidated by when we listen to what firefighters do or different actions. So I think the point that clinicians are willing to learn, I think that's a huge step forward. And because there's as much for us to understand about their world as there is for them to understand about ours. So definitely a change from what it was just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that's so important, and Eric and I have talked about this dozens of times. He's heard me say it many times. A lot of people won't engage in this program and won't be a part of this program because they're afraid they're going to be judged. They don't want somebody to judge them and tell them there's something wrong with them. Number one, we believe, and we learned this from our counterparts in the fire department in New York who are a peer team, and they came down and helped train us in the beginning. But people don't want to be fixed. People want to be heard. You give somebody a chance to be heard and you just let them talk, and you be there as a supporting person and a shoulder to lean on. Don't worry about fixing them. There's plenty of time for that. Let them get out of their system what's in their system. And Don't judge them and don't make rash decisions based on what you think they might need. Give them an opportunity to work through it. Give them an opportunity to understand they can talk to a clinician. They don't have to go but one time. You go one time, and if it doesn't work for you, we'll figure out something else. But the other thing is that we truly believe, in order to continue to maintain that stance of what people really need, is that we just simply need to remember that everybody has a story. We all have a story. There's nobody here that can be judged. None of the three or four of us can be judged. Because everybody in the room, whether you're in a Baptist church filled with 500 people or you at a 12-person training class in the fire department, everybody has something that's happened in their life that they needed help for. Now, do we make judgments? Certainly. If I believe that you're talking to me and asking for help, and I believe that the best thing for you is to get you connected with one of our clinicians and let them talk to you professionally, then I will make that call based on your acceptance and your wish to make that happen. But we're not going to make you do anything. We're not going to sign you up for 15 visits or whatever. We're going to be there for you on the day that you need help. That's simple.
Do you have an idea that you can't quite get out of your head and onto paper? Does your department need updated shirts? If so, you need to talk to the guys over at Studio Print Shop. We've been working with the guys at Studio on making some of our ideas become reality. Whether you need screen printing, embroidery, or graphic design, they have you covered. They're even working with the latest direct-to-garment printing technology to make your ideas come true. Check out their link on our website or go to studioprintshop.com and get 10% off your first order when you use the discount code ALLCLEAR. Studio Print Shop, creativity fueled by passion and vision.
Going to give that person that piece of hope that they might be missing in their life, and letting them know that no matter what it is, like you said, everybody's got a story, and we never know what that story is. And unfortunately, we're very quick to judge, as a society in general nowadays. And having that supportive person of, hey, I'm going to be here for you no matter what. That might be that one thing that they are missing that they truly need, to give them that hope and that inspiration. And if we can nudge them a little bit and encourage them that, hey, there is help. You peel that onion back, like that 12-year journey you went on with that one individual. That is so powerful. It really is. What do you think the biggest obstacle you face as a peer team leader right now? As a team, what do you think is the biggest obstacle that stands in front of you with trying to connect with individuals?
Well, this is not a blanket statement by any imagination, because there's lots of good leaders in the fire service who are providing support for this program, but we still have quite a bunch, as a matter of fact, people in the leadership positions high up in the fire departments who, excuse me, sorry about that, who
we are live, folks.
Absolutely, we don't pre-record.
Who simply don't embrace the fact that people in their fire department might need help. I think sometimes they're worried about, if we send a firefighter to a clinician and he talks to a clinician, the clinician is going to find out things about the fire department that chief doesn't want him to find out. Notoriously, we have chiefs, leadership in the fire department, who are the check block guys, I call them. Years ago, we fought fire with 2.5-inch hose and booster lines. And then over the years, we started getting 3-inch hose, then we got 5-inch hose, and then we got breathing apparatus assigned to every man. I can remember back in the day, we had 2 breathing apparatus on each pumper, and there were 3 or 4 guys on the truck, so we had to flip a coin and see who got to use it. But now everybody has their own personal radios, accountability systems, lots of stuff coming along. So a lot of people have embraced, if you will, lightly, embraced this thing of peer support and mental health for firefighters, because they don't want to get left behind. and they're creating programs in their own pharmacy. And they're checking that block, saying, yep, I got a peer team, we're good to go. And then they never give the peer team any support. You look at the budget, there's no money in the budget for the peer team. There's money in the budget for the hazmat team. There's money in the budget for the special operations team. No money for the peer team. We continue to have that problem, but we're far along because of some very dedicated chiefs in the fire service. And we've been very fortunate to have some of those people who have supported us, who carry it to the top of the mountain, so to speak. But that's a big thing. We're still overcoming that. We still have those people that just don't want to get help. But
I agree with you. That invest in your people. And it's not just investing in their training and that they're going to be a good employee, that they're going to be a healthy employee for you. And if we can get on the front side of it and we show them that it's okay, that the job is not all rainbows and unicorns, as you've all heard me say before, that there's going to be struggles, there's going to be adversity, and it's okay to not be okay. And if we let them know that, we've got to open that up, and we've got to make them feel comfortable about talking about some of these difficult conversations, these difficult times in their life, and treat them like a family, not just as an employee. Your employees are not disposable. We've got to invest the time, the effort, the money of putting programs together, and support them in every aspect of the job. It's funny that you mentioned specific things, the hazmat team, technical rescue, whatever else. There's always money and time for that. I just had a conversation the other day with somebody. We might have actually had this conversation with Michael Cavanis the other day too, Travis, that sometimes the training programs are a little out of skew. You look how much time is spent in the firefighter curriculums on folding salvage covers. Is that an important task of our job? Yeah, I guess so. But do we really need to spend 12 hours on showing somebody how to fold and deploy a salvage cover, and we have very minimal, if anything, incorporated on the mental health side of what we do on the job?
Something along those same lines, and I remember when we had that conversation with Cavanis, that sometimes we lose focus on what's important, and when things like mental health and wellness, peer support come up, even cancer, whatever the case is, we as the fire service tend to be very reactive. And as soon as we hear the word, it becomes the buzzword for 2, 3, 4 years at every conference you go to and things like that. Then all of a sudden it kind of shrinks and goes away. And right now peer support is the hot topic right now, and it's very important, no doubt. But we've got to keep it in the front of people's minds beyond its cycle at the conference, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So how do you think we can do that? How do you think we can keep it on the top of people's minds, so to speak?
I've got my opinion on it, and that's doing what I'm doing, what the members of my team are doing, same thing that Gerald and his team is doing, and that's advocate, getting out there as much as possible, letting people know who we are, what we do, and sharing. We've got to be able to share. We've got to be able to open up and show that vulnerability, and we just can't roll over. This is a true passion of mine. I know it's a passion of Gerald, and we got to keep grinding at it every single day. This is what I do. I'm involved with it every day. Same with Gerald, and we've got to get more people that are willing to do that.
Yeah, and not only people, I guess, to lead the charge, but also people that are willing to use the service, so to speak.
Yeah.
People have to be aware that it's there and not be afraid to use it. And then when you meet somebody like Gerald, which I am blown away by just the experience and the knowledge that you have about this. And, since we started doing this podcast, I've started getting my primer in, mental health and things like that. And it really amazes me at how long these things have been in place, but yet how long people haven't taken advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm hoping it will turn out to be something like what Gerald mentioned before, the SCBAs. Having 4 guys on a piece of apparatus and only 2 SCBAs, and nobody really wanted to wear them. Now look, you got guys wearing SCBAs, on just about every single incident they go to. And I'm hoping the same thing eventually will happen with the mental health and the behavioral health side of things. That, hey, this is something new. It's uncomfortable. It's kind of awkward, but it's going to prove itself. And I think that we have proven ourselves to a certain extent that this is legitimate. It's a needed service. These teams are providing good, valuable resources, and hopefully one day it'll be the normal in the fire service. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm hoping for.
Definitely.
Yeah. There's a couple other things. Number one, you need to understand that in the business of being a peer team or a mental health team, you're going to step on some toes every once in a while. And you got to have a thick skin yourself and be willing to step on toes. An example is I give you a list of fire departments in the lower state of South Carolina. You pick 20 of them, any 20 of them, and give me the names. And I check with those fire departments, and I find out what kind of recruit classes they have. Some will have a recruit class, some will send them to the State Fire Academy. But quite a few fire departments have big recruit classes that will last 3 or 4 months, sometimes 6 months. You get the curriculum for that recruit class. You don't see any mention nowhere, of any talk about behavioral health. That should be the very first thing. We should be introducing them to the program, not boring them to death with days worth of training, but tell them about the program and tell them who's involved and what it's about. And people still get caught up in the old adage of critical incidents. CISM is critical incidents, and that program has done a tremendous amount of good. But the kind of programs that we're talking about here is not just for critical incidents. As a matter of fact, majority of the time it's about things that happen in their personal lives. It's about marriage difficulties, drinking too much, or child rearing problems, or financial problems, or it's about misunderstandings and disagreements in the firehouse with the people that you work with. So it is job related to that, but it's not always about going to a bad call. And if we treat it just as a bad call kind of scenario, then we miss so much of things that people really struggle with in their life. The guy that led me around for 12 years before I finally corralled him wasn't about the fire department. It was about his personal life. Things that happened to him when he was a child. I mean, this guy's like 60 years old. He's telling me things that happened to him when he was a child that he'd been carrying his whole life. We have the clinicians to help take care of people. We have doctors if we need doctors to help take care of people. But we got to be willing to stand up to a chief and say, look, chief, I'm looking at your curriculum here for this recruit class. You got 40 new people in this recruit class. Not a single minute's worth of time is devoted to behavioral health care. Give me 2 hours. Just give me 2 hours. That's all I want. Let me go in there and we'll bring some of our team members. Eric and I have done this together before. Yep. Go to that recruit class and tell them about this program and tell them why they need this program and what it will do for them, and educate them so that when they hit the stations, they know they have some kind of support behind them already, above and beyond what the chief's office can give them.
It's funny listening to you say that, that it is not all about the bad stuff. It's regular life things that I know our team, deals with a lot. It's personal stressors in their life, and they're having a difficult time with it. And it's like that game show. I'm pulling out a lifeline here, and I'm going to phone a friend. Hey, pick the phone up. Talk to us. We'll sit there and listen to you. Like Gerald said, a majority of the time, all people want is to be heard. They want to be listened to. They don't want their problem to be solved. They just want to know that they're not alone going through that struggle right there. What is the most rewarding part for you when it comes to peer support, Gerald?
When we receive a call from someone looking for help and asking for help and asking for, sometimes it's not necessarily to go to a commission, sometimes it's talk to somebody on the peer team. And one thing that we're blessed with on our team is that we have enough people in our fire, EMS, and 911 teams that we can put somebody. If you're a 911 dispatcher, you might not want to talk to a firefighter. You might not want to talk to a paramedic. So we can put people on our 911 team there with those folks. If we have to respond out of town and there's a multiple casualties, like a police mass shooting with police and so forth, we put together a team of responders from all three of our teams, and we'll go to that location. Last one was we had a police shootings up in Florence, South Carolina in 2018. We were on there for days. We had people asking for help. You know, you can have the shiniest car in the world, man, and the new tires and the hot rod. Nobody ever wants to ride with you. What are you going to do, ride around by yourself? I like for people to step up and say, we need some help. And the most pleasing thing for me personally is to see one of our team members excel at helping somebody. And they go, wow, you know, I was nervous that I wasn't going to be able to do that. And they did it. And they didn't have to turn to us.
That's phenomenal.
Awesome.
So, is there anything else that you would like to share with us today, Gerald?
No, just being there for people is what's so important. You can narrow it down to some kind of a real cool saying if you want, or whatever you want to do. I had a friend, and I'll tell this story real quick. We had a friend, John Wynn, who was a battalion chief in the Charleston Fire Department. He was struggled very badly after the Charleston line fire because he lost most of the people that died were in his battalion over on the west side of town. He struggled real bad. He got to drinking real bad, and he got himself in pretty bad trouble drinking. And the reason I'm telling this story outside of confidentiality is because he wanted me to tell it. He told me to share it. But he came to me one day and said, I need some help, man. I cannot control my drinking, and I need some help. We got him in a day program at a place called the Charleston Center, which was an alcohol rehab program that he could attend at his own time and his own pace. And he went and did that, and he got much, much better. And he came back and he said, that was amazing, man. I want to join this team. Can you train me to be a peer team member? And he was a 34-year veteran, I believe, at the time. I mean, he was the most highly respected guy around. So to have him want to be on your team was like having Mickey Mantle want to play ball with. So we sent him to class, trained him up. He got on our class. He became one of the most avid peer supporters we had on our team. At the time, he passed away, unfortunately, but at the time of his death, he had referred over 50 firefighters to our counseling unit, to the clinician.
Wow.
And
wow.
He came by to see me one day, and we were very close friends anyway, and so we would eat lunch together and that sort of thing. He came by my office and said, look, what's going on with you? I said, what do you mean what's going on with me? He said, I haven't heard from you. I don't know what's happening. You usually call me, come by to see me, I hadn't heard from you. Well, a month prior to that, he'd come by to share with me that he had terminal cancer, and he was undergoing chemo treatments. And I was heartbroken because he was my brother in every sense of the word. I said, John, I don't know what to say. I'm scared. I'll say the wrong thing. I won't be able to help you. I don't know what to do. So I guess I just shy away from coming in contact. I won't tell you the exact words he used, but he basically said, it's got to stop. I need you to come by and see me. He said, I said, okay, well, I'll come out to your house. He and his wife had just built a brand new home, still had a dirt yard, didn't even have grass in it. I said, I come out there and I ring the door, but I'm afraid you won't want to talk to me. And you won't come to the door. He said, if I don't want to talk to you, I'm not coming to the door. Just get behind in the car and go. Come back another day. He said, but I'll see you've been there because I'll see your tracks in the yard. I don't know what to tell you. He wasn't asking for anything special. He was asking for a friend to be there for him. And he said, tracks in the yard is what will let me know that you were there and that you are here when I need you.
You make that impression on people.
Yep, you sure do. And those impressions last a very long time.
Yes,
very
they do.
long time. Very good.
Well, I can't thank you enough for joining us today, Gerald. This has been absolutely fantastic. And how can people get in touch with you or your team if need be?
843-609-8300. That's 843-609-8300. Or go to our website at firefighterssupport.org. Very simple website.
We'll put those.
You can send us a message. We'll contact you. I don't care if you live in Kansas or Puerto Rico or California. If you need help, you call us. I know Eric will do the same thing. There's plenty of help if you don't have any help right at the end of your fingertips at home. We will get you help. We work very hard to build relationships with clinicians all over the country and other peer teams all over the country. There's some great people doing the same thing we do, and we will find you help if you need help.
And it's like what Lee says. It's all about the relationships.
That's right.
And we build those relationships every single day. We might not have the answers, but we know a lot of people.
Yep.
And we can get you in touch with who you need. So please do not hesitate in reaching out to Gerald's team, my team, or any other team in between. The help is there, and you are worth it.
And all that info will be in our show notes whenever we get ready to publish.
Yes.
Very true.
So again,
appreciate you allowing me to be on with you today, Eric.
Yeah.
I love you guys. You and I together all the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Gerald, before you leave, we do have a little tradition here on All Clear.
Oh no! Hold on to your britches, Gerald.
I ask a question to Eric. Eric, do you know what you call a boomerang that does not come back?
A stick.
A stick. Very good. Hey, you got it. First one you've gotten. You stole my thunder. So we're going to keep up the dad jokes until we get enough people to download and listen. But again, Gerald, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you'll be back sometime soon, too, because you've been fun to have on the show. All right. Well, very good. All right. Well, thank you all again. I am Travis. This is Eric. We've got Gerald Mishoe with us, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to All Clear.
Thanks, guys.
You have been listening to All Clear, presented by the North Carolina Firefighter Cancer Alliance and the First Responders Peer Support Network. All Clear is written and produced by Travis McGaha and Eric Stevenson and recorded on Riverside FM. Opinions and views expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect the views of the podcast. Please subscribe and rate us on your podcast app of choice. Thanks, and we'll see you soon.